when you want something and you're committed, the universe kind of allows a path, but you got to be willing to take it. So,
welcome to another edition of the Growth Game Podcast. I'm your host, Paul DeLuca. I'm CEO of Meritus Capital, and we're happy to have all of our audience on today. And we're really thrilled to have Chantz Staden with us as well from Agile Recruiting. Appreciate so much that you've taken the time to be with us today, Chantz, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
me as well, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's great. We love bringing together the best of the best in staffing and recruiting and talking about all of the things that people are doing to grow through this economy. And our audience is made up of staffing CEOs and VPs and people trying to do the same thing. It's just a great community of sharing great ideas and thoughts. So we're really happy to have you on today. So I love doing these too, as many of my audience will know, when we don't know each other at all, because it's this great little intro, and it amazes me all the time, Chantz. Like, I've been in this business since the 90s, how many people I haven't met, even as big as my community is. So it's always great to make new relationships and new friends in the business.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't see a lot of podcasts that have to do with staffing and recruiting on the circuit. So when I seen you, I was like, oh yeah, this is just great, not just only for networking and ourselves, but for the industry overall, man. So yeah, appreciate the work you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's great. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to be at the ASA conference here in October, and we had started the podcast literally just right before last year's ASA conference. And I went to the conference, and dozens of people are walking up that I'd never met before, even though I've been in this business forever. And they're like, "Oh man, I'm loving the podcast," and it's really great. It's kind of getting good traction, so we're super happy.
Hey,
so
Paul.
it's fun.
Paul, the key to growth is consistency. That's the shortcut.
That's right.
Stay on it, man, and then that momentum builds up. But yeah, you're on it.
Consistency is so important. You're absolutely right, and it's no wonder Meritus has had the best 2 years of my 5-year career. So it's content is everything. But talk to me about yourself. Love to figure out how, your origin story. I'm curious, Chantz, how did you get into this business? What was your journey that got you into your staffing career?
Yeah, awesome question. I love talking about it. I think everyone's journey into recruiting is always unique. But mine in particular, man, I graduated from college, Washington State University. I played football, so I was on a full ride scholarship. Nice. So that was my dream. That was my goal as a child, right? So that was my passion. And then, junior year, tore my ACL, and and then after that, I was never the same physically on the field.
Right.
So fast forward, graduate. I'm back home in San Jose, California, and I'm like, I'm trying to make money. And so I actually got introduced to the recruiting world through Maxim Healthcare, which was a big time. I think they're one of the Regis, or is it not Regis? Allegis Group under that umbrella. But yeah, that was staffing. So I was placing CNAs at hospital shifts, which sometimes start at 7 a.m. So I'm making calls at 5 a.m. trying to get them in the door, and so
hustling.
Man, I'm telling you, that was like Maxim was like it was like kind of the young college feel, because we're all kind of new into the business world, but we were working 10-hour shifts, right? And the commissions weren't nothing in the nursing side. But being in San Jose, California, tech hub, of the world, I was like, I want to get into recruiting. I knew that's where the money was. That's where, me being I was born in '88, so I kind of grew up with technology. I've always been, fascinated by it. And so I made the shift over to a small private agency in San Jose, California, worked my way up as the, number one recruiter. And then I had my first child, got married, and then decided, it's time to go out on my own and work for myself and build something for myself and my family that, we can call our own.
Exciting. That's so exciting. I love the entrepreneurial journey. It honestly is the reason that I get up every day and continue to work in this business. Like I'm very passionate about it. I love seeing people lift themselves up and make something of themselves, and and if they can use my capital as the fuel to fuel their dreams, I've done what I do best and I love. I think we've financed a little over 800 staffing companies in my career, but a lot of people ask me why I'm still doing it, and I got to tell you, the energy that I get and the enjoyment I get from seeing people succeed, it's a lot better than golfing. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
it's like I'm still at it every day.
And Paul, that's a real energy exchange too.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
after the journey I went on with the, tech market, crash in
Mm-hmm.
2022, and just
Yeah,
all the issues and challenges that come with starting your own business from
yeah,
home, family of four, growing, on my own. I'm hitting 5 years
yeah,
this December, but like, I get why 90% or whatever crazy number it is
yeah.
of startups, businesses fall
Right,
out of the first 5 years. So it
right.
almost
It's
happened to me.
hard.
Yeah, it happened to me several times where I was like
Yeah,
on Indeed, on LinkedIn, looking for jobs, and like,
that's right.
am I gonna have to,
Yeah,
find something else? But
yeah,
just stuck with it, and it was something I really wanted, right? And so when you
yeah.
want something,
Mm-hmm.
and you're committed, the universe kind of allows a path, but you got to be willing to take it. And so, yeah, man,
You got to be
it's
you got
awesome.
to be
For
willing
sure.
to take
It's awesome.
take the hits, right? You got
Yeah.
to be willing to take the hits and take the bumps and stay at it. I'd love to hear, just because I think it's really fun. You played ball in school. I'd love to hear, what things did you learn in the process of being a good ball player that you've been able to implement in your business that has made you successful?
Yeah. Looking back at it, like I was just going through what I thought I needed to do to be the best football player. So it was all normal to me, waking up at
Hmm.
5 a.m., 4 hour workouts, Monday through Friday, strict diets, missing proms,
Yeah,
missing vacations because of, a
yeah.
combine or a practice or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And so looking back at it, it started at 9 years old, keeping my legs up during leg lifts in the heat
Yeah,
of the summer. Like that
right.
was like as a 9-year-old. That's you're sweating your
Wow.
hat. You got pads
That's
on
some
your first.
commitment.
You got your dad and all your dad's friends yelling at you to keep your feet up. And at that moment, you have to decide. Okay,
Yeah.
is this what I'm gonna
Yeah.
freaking do? And I
I
stuck
love it.
with it. I stuck with it,
Nice.
and the sport. You know, just I played basketball as well. I
Okay.
played baseball too growing up, but there's nothing like football because you have such a big group of
Yeah.
guys,
More camaraderie. Yeah.
more camaraderie. You come from different parts,
Yeah.
even different sizes. You got big guys, you got small guys, you got smart guys, you
Yeah.
got dumb guys, and you
Yeah.
have to work together as a cohesive unit. And so,
Yeah.
but like just going through the practices, man, during the summers, the two a days in college, right? And
Yeah.
it's after year compounding that momentum, it became
Hmm.
normal, right? And
Sure.
so when
Yeah.
I got in these tough situations in real life,
Hmm.
I was like, wait a
Hmm.
minute. I lined up
Yeah.
against Clay Matthews, Ray Maluga, and who's the other guy? Brian Cushing, right? Like they took my head off, but I still lined up on them.
I
So
love
I
it.
always,
That's exciting.
I always go back to those times where I
Yeah.
like really needed to, man up and
Hmm.
really put myself into that psyche of like, look, I can do
Yeah.
this, right? This is not the end of the
That's
world. I've
exciting.
been into tougher situations, so yeah,
That's
just the
exciting.
yeah, but that overall just kind of that grind mentality, right?
Yeah.
Of the practices, the long
Yeah.
seasons. That's
Sure.
kind of the core that I took from my experience
Yeah,
in football.
that's exciting. I love it. No, that's great. It's great to talk about your ball career and how it's that commitment, those early hours, the devotion to success, and the ability to take the hits and get back up. Like that's another thing I see that and you mentioned it. You said how many times you were really considering, hey, throw in the towel. I can't do this entrepreneurial thing. I've been there myself many times. I've taken some big hits, and it's the getting back up that makes success. It's not what takes you down. I would say most of the most successful career entrepreneurs that I have financed over the years have had multiple businesses fail until they stuck with it, got back up, and made it happen. And it's great to see you've done that. But let's talk a little bit about your sector. So you've done healthcare, you've done tech. Kind of talk to me a little bit about the what you like and dislike out of both of those, and really where are you focused right now for the business?
Yeah, great question. And so, I wouldn't say, which one I dislike more or the other. I would say this: when it was with the staffing in nursing industry, it was more fast paced.
Yeah,
These nurses were dealing with patients that were, on their deathbed. So the pressure,
yeah, yeah.
responsibility weighed a lot more than somebody going in to like create or develop on the Xbox, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Just a whole different attitude of really what's the outcome.
yeah,
The
yeah.
outcome is the player may not work, the video player might not work, or somebody
Big
could get
difference.
hurt. That's an interesting
That's a
perspective.
it's a big difference. Now hold on, Paul. Don't get me wrong, because in tech they make some
Yeah,
out of this world health technology that saves lives as well.
absolutely,
So you have that
absolutely.
aspect, but majority, right? We're not in the
Yeah,
hospital setting, so
right.
that right there is a very different
Hmm.
energy exchange, I would say.
Hmm. Sure.
But like there was a part of me that liked that fast paced staffing, right? And so when I went
Yeah.
over to tech, the big thing with tech was like there was no sending 5, 10 resumes.
Hmm.
Tech managers have a very short leash when it comes to
Got it.
recruiters in the quality
Okay.
of resume. So
Okay.
it forced me very early on to like, okay, really hone in on my skill, on my craft, which
Yeah.
was sourcing
Hmm.
right candidates for the particular job, whether it be software,
Hmm.
hardware,
Sure.
test, these different sectors. So
Hmm.
that first year was a real big learning curve, because then
Yeah.
also in tech, so with tech is it's a different language. It's a
Yeah.
different, and you're speaking with those that have a maybe English is their
Hmm.
second language, right? So
Sure.
it's very difficult in the beginning, the challenges,
Hmm.
the obstacles compared to the nursing field.
Yeah.
But once you do get established and you get the lay of the land within tech,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
world opens up. It's infinite because tech just
Got
doesn't
it.
stop. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? And now with AI, it's even more vast.
Right. Right.
So, which is all positive because that's huge growth potential within tech if you can really hone in on the quality of
Yeah.
what you're presenting. So,
Yeah. I like that. The quality of and really, like you said, honing your craft to make sure you're not just throwing resumes at the wall and hoping something sticks, but actually being a real consultant and really both for both sides. You got to be the right matchmaker to really make sure that this is the right person for the right job, right? On both
right.
sides, it's got to work not just for the candidate, but it has to work for obviously the company as well. You mentioned AI. Have you found that are you starting to fill some roles, specialized or roles in AI? And I'm
Yeah.
curious, how specialized are those requirements getting?
Yeah, so interesting. So I haven't tapped into AI yet, and that's how
Hmm.
huge tech is. Like, I
Right.
don't even need to go into AI
Yeah.
in order
You're
to,
specializing in what you're doing right now. Yeah.
yeah, because
Exactly.
not a lot of real tech recruiters do it. They really, pick a general market, whether it's like,
Hmm.
tech or IT. So I've actually niched down into like the embedded software space, which is
Okay.
very highly involved in the AI because all these AI
Hmm.
techs or software stacks are connected through our devices. Okay, so
Got it.
embedded software engineers are all involved in that. Like they kind of
So
make.
can you, for us non-tech people, do you mind giving us a little bit of primer on that? So what specifically do you mean by embedded technology?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sure not
No, it's
everyone's
great.
been in the tech world, but
No,
yeah.
I
So
love it.
yeah, awesome. So it's really starting from kind of a foundation. It's two areas: software and
Hmm.
hardware. Okay,
Okay.
so hardware is obviously the physical device that you're
Sure.
handling. The software goes into
Hmm.
the hardware. That embedded software engineer is the one
Okay.
that puts the software and like into the hardware.
Got it. Got it.
So
So
kind
an
of makes it
embedded
come alive.
an embedded software person would be putting the stuff in my Apple Watch that makes my Apple Watch work.
Correct. Or,
Got it.
or
So that's pretty. It's
communicate to
pretty.
the device or whatever. Like, yeah.
Got it. So it's pretty special. So it's very specialized.
Yeah, it is. It is. But if you
Yeah.
if you're working in tech, it's kind of an
Yeah.
older specialty, right? Like you mentioned,
Is
you
it?
started in the '90s, and
Yeah.
like in the '90s, it was hardware and software, and in software, it was like embedded and like everything
It's true.
else, right? So,
Right.
but what's crazy is that tech has gotten so big that like
Hmm.
even niching down to old school markets, like is a
Yeah.
successful and like good growth plan. And
I
I
like that.
found that success back in
Yeah.
2022, 2023, is
Okay.
when the market changed. Big tech stopped hiring, so
Yep.
then I had to. Okay, I'm tech, but I'm working on everything. And so
Got
I
it.
was a real generalist, and I was
Yeah.
just kind of chasing the next one and the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so since then, I've realized, okay, there's no consistency. I keep chasing
Yeah.
the next one. I can't sustain this as a a single provider, family of four,
Sure.
in my situation. So I went
Yeah.
into digital marketing, and
Got it.
I worked with Johnny Gupton. And
Mm-hmm.
shout out to Johnny Gupton. I'm still working with him and Alexis on the
All
marketing
right.
side.
Great.
But with his program, I niched
Mm-hmm.
down to the embedded space. And
Ah.
no
Okay.
lie, within 90 days of sending out some marketing messaging, I had my
Yeah.
first placement, which was the highest fee I had seen, which was a
Yep.
48K fee, one hire
Nice.
from
Nice.
niching down. And so since
Yeah.
then, 36, 34, 20 is the lowest I
Sure.
see.
Yeah.
So I'm getting larger fees on a more consistent basis now because I've
Right.
niched down and
Yep.
I've installed some systems, which
Mm-hmm.
have been
Yeah.
huge. I've never been a systems guy. I've always just kind of
Yeah.
filled the job, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there's no growth without a system to follow. So I've taken everything kind of, and I'm still doing it,
Yeah.
taking
And you just
everything
create
here.
processes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Nice.
and then, and that's really the growth. My kind of growth, advice at this point is take what's
Yeah.
going on here,
Yeah.
systemize it, pass it
Create the
off.
profit. Yep. Yep.
That way,
Yeah.
and they're not going to be 100% as good as me, but at least 70, 80% we're
Right.
catching most of them, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
then the key is to be consistent and to continue to keep that process going every day. So,
Yeah. That's great. I love it.
yeah, those are
That's
kind of
great.
some of the things I've learned, and a little background on
Yeah.
tech. I know I kind of rambled there.
Yeah. No, I love it. No, it's great. Thank you. I'm sure our audience will love that. It's great to, I think there's something to be learned here, and it's something that is a recurring theme on the growth game. It's one of those patterns that can be matched is don't try to be all things to all people. Like, to the extent that you can highly specialize in a niche and own that niche, it can be very, very profitable, and you can really get a deeper, percentage of the market share in that specific niche. You're just going to be able to sustain the business a lot longer. So I love to see that. Talk to me a little bit about your relationships now. So, you really sounds like you grew the business through COVID. So, have your relationships been mostly virtual? Has there been an in-person component to the growth and success that you've had here in the last few years? And really, just kind of that macro question is, how much of your business is there in your region where you can go out and meet with the hiring manager in San Jose, or are you filling roles across the U.S.? Kind of, there's this debate going on with so many entrepreneurs, and I'm curious where you see, how much is virtual and how much is in person.
Yeah, yeah, great question. And yeah, so my business looks totally different than what I set out to do prior
Yeah.
to COVID. So you're
Mm-hmm.
right. I started my business right before COVID. It was me and one other salesperson. We were going to do a
Uh-huh.
brick and mortar. COVID
Yep.
happened, so we went remote, saved money there on the and thank God we did because all of our
Sure.
activity stopped.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today, I'm in Tennessee. So me and my wife,
Mm-hmm.
she was working at HP during the time. They sent her
Okay.
remote indefinitely. We're paying
Okay.
4,000 in more 4,500 in mortgage with number two on the way. We're like, okay, let's switch it up, right? Let's kind of give
Yeah.
ourselves some more leeway and not have
Sure.
to hustle and bustle, the both of us. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we moved to Tennessee. We're out here in the country. We live on 3 acres, and I work from home.
That's cool. Love it.
Everything's virtual, Paul. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of tech. All of my
Right.
clients, all of my candidates are on this thing right here. And if they're
Yeah.
not on this thing, they're on the laptop, right? And
Yeah.
so all of my outreach is email. Now,
Mm-hmm.
once a client and candidate are interested, yes, we hop on a Zoom call, and then we create that.
Sure.
I'm able to create that rapport through there,
Yeah.
or phone call, what have you. But there
Yeah.
is that component. But there's been no in-person meeting since I moved to Tennessee for one, and
Yeah.
so I go back and forth because I do
Yeah.
miss that component of being in the office, having a
Sure. Me
team in
too.
real time, right? That
Yep.
communication in real time is huge. Right now, my team's spread out internationally, right?
Right.
California, Canada, India. So there's that communication streamline that could be
Yeah.
better. But
Yeah.
with AI, with AI and like digital marketing, it's allowed me to reach out to more hubs than just San Jose. So
Sure.
now, since San Jose big tech is kind of on a hold, I'm out here in
Yep.
Texas. I'm
Got it.
out here in Minnesota. I'm out here in New York. I'm out here in New Jersey.
Nice. So you're way
But
more
that's
nimble. You're way more
yeah,
nimble in your
that's
marketing
the
and your
name. That's the
services.
name,
Yeah.
Agile, right? And I played
Yeah.
football as agility, so it kind of tied
There you
in. Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
And so that's how much work is out there too, though. Just
Yep.
in my space alone, right? And
Sure.
so, one plug for tech is like those. I know a lot of recruiters like want to get into tech and they're intimidated. I'm like,
Yeah.
with AI and all the tools you have, you can become an expert in any area within
Sure.
weeks.
Yeah.
And
That's
then at that
interesting.
point, it's about systems installing, and then just
Learn
showing
and
up. But
yeah,
um,
learn
but
and do it.
but to answer your original question, I'm 100% remote. I'm here in
Yeah.
Tennessee. Nashville, there's a hub in Nashville, but I haven't. I have so
Yeah.
much work and leads coming in through my email outreach. I haven't had to go guerrilla marketing
Yeah.
or knocking on doors yet.
Yeah.
Even though
Got it.
I'm open to it, and I probably will eventually. But for
Yeah.
now, my family's young.
What you've got now with your young family is working, it makes sense. And
Yeah,
I think I honor that. When I was raising my daughters, but both of my daughters are in their 20s now. They're both married. And I made specific decisions to sacrifice my business growth and even operationally where to grow my business. I picked a place that was more convenient for them, less convenient for
right,
my business growth. So I
right.
get it and I love it. And I'm a big, shout out to moms and dads when they make that decision to put that as their priority. There's where you can add more joy in your life. And so I love that. Let me ask you a question. How do you, in regards to talent, it's a very competitive space that you're in. How do you attract top talent? What's your top one or two skill sets that you and your team talk about and highlight that says I'm going to attract the top talent instead of the other guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a great question. And my advice that comes to the top is like a recruiting cardinal sin, and
Mhm.
it's really just giving all of that information up front with the candidates, earning their trust from the start.
Give
So,
the
and I had
data, earn the trust.
I've had an interesting experience with this
Hmm.
because I started recruiting on LinkedIn before
Hmm.
LinkedIn Recruiter was a thing. So
Yep.
my boss, who was an old school guy, started in the '90s. He's like, "Hey, LinkedIn keeps upping our price. Do we need to
Yeah.
renew?" And then I
Yeah.
show them the list of hires.
Right.
90% of our hires are coming through LinkedIn. Yeah, we need it.
Wow. Yeah.
But my outreach was all through messaging. And so it dawned on me,
Hmm.
okay, I'm playing this cat and mouse game with the candidate.
Yeah. Right.
And I just said, you know what? It was just so much of a struggle. I was done struggling. I said, hey, this is what I have. This is the job description. Here's the company. Here's the salary range. Let me know what you
Yeah.
think. Resume sent.
Oh, that's interesting. So you just went out and just just gave them all the data right away instead of
Resume
playing coy.
was sent. No questions asked.
Oh
I
wow.
submit.
Wow.
You're confirmed for an on-site interview on Friday. Boom, they go on site.
Neat.
I never even picked up the phone.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's interesting.
when I started doing that, I was like,
Transparency. Transparency is important.
yeah, that's huge. And so even with the market shift though, that wasn't enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
What I also implemented, this is another nugget, is and it's a little uncomfortable for recruiters, but I record a Loom video that's
Okay.
me
Yep.
going through the job with them and telling them the
Huh.
company, letting them know who I am, going over what the
I
manager's looking
like
for,
that.
and it just switches it up from the generic, just a bunch
Yeah.
of requirements. They get that and the job
Yeah.
description and a
Yeah, but
video
give a
from me.
video. Ooh, I like that. And they can
And
build
so,
some rapport with you, even though it's
yeah,
just a recording. And it's still they see your eyes, they see you talking. The video, there's rapport built. I like that a lot. That's great,
and
great advice.
that alone, especially in tech, because tech's
Yeah.
easy to spam and get hits, right?
Hmm.
It is a
Right.
numbers thing,
Right.
but I like to
Yeah.
do it a lot more sophisticated and
Hmm.
elegant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there is
I
that
like it.
touch, and I got that tip from Donnie Gupton. That shout out to him, But
Nice.
those
Nice.
those two things right there, um, I, my responses from LinkedIn were basically like in that 10 to 15. Now they're in the
Hmm.
25 to 35% range.
Yeah. Right. That's beautiful. You build deeper relationships that way. That's
Yeah.
really nice. That's great. So, how do you stay up to date with the changes going on. Like there's constantly, movement changes in the industry. You're recruiting for your specialized industry, but you're obviously not working on it every day, right?
Right.
So how do you specifically stay up to date so that you become a knowledge source, an expert when you're talking to your prospects and your current clients?
Yeah, man, it's really, Paul, about keeping your finger on the pulse, right, and keeping tabs on the heartbeat of your
Mhm.
market. And so you have to have conversations with candidates. You have to be looking at job descriptions and resumes and putting together. Oh, wait, this company's now looking for Zephyr, which is like a popular wireless tech stack.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay.
Zephyr is just popping up new. It's the first time I've seen it. Now I see this company have
Yeah.
it. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
We need to start looking for Zephyr because once one
So
company does
go
it,
look, go
they all
learn.
follow.
Yeah.
They all follow. So,
Yeah.
but you get the trends, you get the patterns
Mhm.
as you
Yeah.
continue to work in the same industry.
Mhm.
But Paul, like I
Yeah.
said, originally I was just a general tech recruiter, so I never had this
Sure.
deep knowledge of just the embedded space. So now
Mhm.
it's now that it's a skill that I've developed,
Mhm.
but you have to be kind of focused in that one area because where your
Yeah.
attention goes, your energy flows, and
Right.
that's going to expand. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of how I keep up with the trends. And like I
Mhm.
mentioned, they kind of all follow suit and do the same thing, right? A little
Sure.
different, but
Yeah.
yeah, once you're in it, you're able to pick these things up and see the waves.
Yeah, that's great. So, a big part of our audience are existing entrepreneurs, but a whole nother big sector of our audience are, managers, executives working for other people in the business. I have found that in the staffing industry, there's a number of startups every single day because somebody who's working for somebody else in staffing decides I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. What advice would you have to that group if you've been thinking about starting your own business for a while? What specific advice do you have for them to kind of evaluate if they're right for being an entrepreneur and when's the right time for them?
That's a great question. And Paul, I don't know if I can answer that, and I don't know if
Hmm.
anyone can answer that for anyone else because being an entrepreneur, it really comes from within. I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until I just got into the mindset of being a father and a husband and not having to rely on any other man
Hmm.
or any other entity to put food on my table. So
Hmm.
that's where I was as far as starting my own
Yeah.
business. But looking
Right.
back at it, this is what
Hmm.
I would have done, and this would be my advice to those who are thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um, Now, the mental mindset part of it, that's probably an entire separate like
Sure.
segment. But
Right.
tactically, strategically, I'll speak on because I think that's
Hmm.
something people can take and really digest. But
Hmm.
it's for one determining who you are going to serve
Yeah.
and why. What is your why? Right? Like,
I
yeah, we
like.
all
I
want to
love
make more
that.
money and live that entrepreneurial lifestyle. But you'll understand real quick once you get into this that it's not about that.
Right.
Right? It's about your freedom, your flexibility. And once you're on that path, you really find out who you truly are. But
Hmm.
strategically, I would find out, who I'm going to serve, what clients, what industry, a niche specifically. That's how you cut
Hmm.
through the noise, right? You're going to come
Yeah.
into a vast market. A lot of recruiters popping up, not only from in the states, all over.
Hmm.
They got
Sure.
AI. You got. I'm getting text messages on WhatsApp from recruit. Like,
I know.
it's crazy. To cut through all
Yeah.
that noise, pick a
Hmm.
niche specialty.
Hmm.
Should be one that you're familiar with. If you've been working in the industry, just pick one that you're,
Hmm.
had the most experience with. That's how I picked mine. I
Yeah.
wasn't an embedded expert, but I was like, I worked on this enough to like, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable if I see an embedded job, and so
Yeah.
I went all in.
Yeah.
So find out your ideal client,
Hmm.
your niche specialty, and then if you are working right now, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, build your clientele, right?
Yeah.
Use your
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Build the
Um,
relationships. Yeah.
Build your
Absolutely.
relationships so that you don't have
Hmm.
to wait that 30 to 60 to 90 days to get your first client. You already know who
Right.
likes you, they already know you, and you have a
Yeah.
better just better pool because that initial
Sure.
startup time, Paul, is
Yeah.
I did it during COVID. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know how more stressful it gets than that. But like,
Yeah,
it's stressful no matter how you cut it. So
that's
I
right.
had 6 months of my mortgage paid
Hmm.
out in advance. I was not gonna,
Hmm.
stress
Yeah, that's
about that
great.
again.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Give
like,
yourself a little
not
bit of
everyone.
breathing room.
A
So you
little bit,
start your
yeah.
business. You're not immediately, feast or famine and hit the famine
So
right away before you give yourself some time. Yeah,
give
I agree.
yourself a
I like
little
that.
breathing room if you could, at least
Yeah,
3 months, right?
yeah,
And then also, once you start, you can't stop. Which
yeah,
means once you start doing lead generation, that
yeah,
has to continue. That's your lifeline. New
yeah,
clients learning who you are. So you have
yeah.
to come up with a funnel, with a
Right.
lead generation business development process that you can
Yeah.
install. That either you run it manually,
Hmm.
but like you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, you can't be the chief of everything,
Yeah.
right? You have to be able to delegate in order to grow.
Hmm. Yeah.
But in the beginning, we wear all the hats. So it's
Yeah.
something you do on a consistent basis. That's your lifeline, the lead
Yeah.
generation side.
Yep. Got
Um,
to be
and
filling
so
that top. Got to be filling the top of that funnel all the
at
time.
least, at least, at least,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about a prediction. 5 years from now, where do you see the differences in the roles that a staffing and recruiting agency serves between
Hmm.
now and 5 years from
Okay. Well, mine's going to be slightly biased, right?
now? Hmm.
But I am I'm all in on LinkedIn and personal branding as a
Yeah.
recruiter myself,
Yeah.
because I'm in a unique position where I'm remote. I'm talking to like everyone throughout the United States, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
just in one market meeting with a certain type. So
Hmm.
in order for me to spread out, digital marketing is my oxygen, right? So
Yeah.
I'm leaning all in there.
Good.
Um, and I'm sorry, what was the original question,
Well, so
Paul?
the question is like, how do you see the differences between the
Oh, in
staffing
5 years.
agencies now and
That's
five
right.
years?
That's right.
Yeah, and I love how you're leaning into your content and leaning into your personal brand. By the way, I'm a huge believer of that. But and that's great. But the actual role that a staffing agency and a
Oh,
recruiting
got you. Okay,
agency
cool.
serves to the client, do you feel like there'll be big differences in 5 years?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm already seeing big differences now. Like we're back as a recruiter. The good
Hmm.
recruiters, man. I'm not talking. Not all recruiters are created equal. We know that.
Sure. Right.
Good recruiters are in demand because it's. And I have to speak on tech, solely because this is my industry. But
Hmm.
there are a lot of jobs out there, and not all of them are real. So the
Yeah.
good recruiters are getting the real jobs, right? So candidates
Right.
want to work with recruiters, someone who's able to go in and like have a point of contact because they're tired of getting ghosted or
Hmm.
not getting. Oh, this job's perfect for me. I got an automatic
Sure.
decline because
Right.
you don't know who's reviewing your resume, and these companies might just be collecting your resume for a future. Who knows?
Right.
But we're in demand now. But in 5 years,
Hmm.
I don't really see recruiting, especially as a specialty. Oh man,
Yeah.
if you can establish now, in five
Yeah.
years, you'll have like, I don't want to say a monopoly, but you'll be on the top.
Yeah.
There's
A
less competition at the top.
much deeper growth potential if you really specialize now. I agree. I think it's going to continue to specialize.
And Paul, lastly, is the relationship, man. They have to
Yeah.
like you, right?
Yeah.
They have to
Yeah.
like
I
you.
agree.
They either
I
buy or
agree.
sell you right when they see you and meet you the first 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So many times.
it's easy to do that digitally, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's kind of where I say, in 5 years, if you're thinking about it, lean in on yourself, invest in yourself, bet on yourself, and kind of
Hmm.
build that
Yeah.
business around you, and
Yeah.
then you can get to a point to decide, okay, I want to pass it off and brick and mortar
Sure.
it or whatever. But
Hmm.
that's kind of my
I like it. No,
I
that's
don't know,
good. That's good.
Nostradamus
I agree.
crystal
I
ball.
agree. More specialization, less generalized servicing, and I think I agree with that 5 year prediction very much. All right. Well, so last question. So this has been great. Really good time. Really fun to be able to get together. Let's talk about your own growth goals. What do you where do you see yourself in the next few years, and what things are you doing now to achieve your growth goals?
Oh man, I ask that question every day. I ponder it every day.
Good.
And as a recruiter, as really like a dreamer, a big vision guy,
Hmm.
I'm as big as it. I'm as big as it gets. And that's really
Hmm.
a blessing and a curse because I have to stay focused on the now, on what I can control. So right now,
Right.
right now, my goal is $1 million funnel through
Mm-hmm.
my LinkedIn and email campaign.
Mm-hmm.
That's both on the client and the candidate side
Sure.
for embedded. That's just embedded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Right.
So build this funnel, and this funnel is in the process. We're like halfway through, right? And
Okay.
it's been
Yeah.
about 6 months of testing systems, seeing what
Right.
messaging works. And now we have
Mm-hmm.
it, and now we're just refining it even more. So our response rate's
Got it.
going up. So we're just building this embedded funnel. And
Mm-hmm.
then once we establish there,
Mm-hmm.
then it's okay. What's the next
Mm-hmm.
specialty I want to go in? Because I worked in tech. I can go into, DevOps. I can go into,
Sure.
application. I can go into other areas.
Right.
So, but I have to do it first here on the embedded side. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm focusing here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the big goal, another one after another one, and just kind of keep growing those. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a really cool spot to be at, Paul, because I know how to get there.
Yeah.
2 years ago, a year ago, I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how systems work. I didn't understand
Sure.
that process.
Yeah.
Now
So
that I see
now
it,
you've got the vision to get yourself to that growth.
now it's
I love
how
it.
big
Exciting.
do you want to go? How
Yeah.
much do you want to put into it?
Exciting.
So
Have you ever thought about? Sounds like you're primarily just doing recruiting, but have you ever thought about adding a contract side of the business and more of a staffing side?
all the time, and
Yeah.
I get some some opportunities here and there, but I
Yeah.
haven't been in the position to where I can pay somebody and float. So that's why
Ah.
obviously Meritus, right? Because factoring that's new to me.
Yeah.
That's
That
new to me as
wasn't.
well.
And by the way, Chance, that wasn't a self-serving question, but boy, that sure did tee up what I do.
Well, it is.
And
It is.
that's what we do. That's what we
It is.
do.
And that's why it's natural because
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it.
Good.
But
Good.
yeah,
Good.
contract is definitely something I want to get into.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good.
that's definitely something we
We've
can continue talking
we
on.
have taken many successful recruiting firms and helped finance their growth into contract. And I'll say this, Chance, I think it's really important to look at the long-term value of your company, where you really build enterprise value, tends to be much more centered around the contract positions than it does the recruiting. So seriously, give it thought, because you sound like you're a person who loves to achieve. Think about the value creation of 5-10 years out, having a contract business with a lot of retained people. We've seen a lot of companies grow, Chance, from startup to even as much as $20-30 million a month in regular billing. And I have had clients build enterprise value north of $50-60 million for themselves, completely financed by our company. It's pretty amazing. I've made a lot more people a lot more wealthy than myself.
Yeah, you struck
And that's
something.
okay. That's okay. I love it.
That's good energy, Paul, because that comes back to you
Seriously
tenfold.
think about that. Yes, seriously think about the contract side of the business. Keep up the good work. Stay diligent on your plans. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, Chance. You've got some great block and tackle skills in business that you took from your ball career, which is super fun, and you've learned a lot. So it's exciting, and really happy to meet with you today on the Growth Game podcast, Chance. We're going to wrap up, and I look forward to having a relationship long term and seeing your success for a long time.
Absolutely, Paul. Thanks for having me again, man. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, audience. Well, that's a wrap on the Growth Game podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to forward this on to your friends in the staffing industry. Our podcast has really been getting a lot of traction, and we're just really enjoying the conversations we have every week. So until next time, have a great one, and always be selling and always be growing, and continue to pattern match other people's success and stay with it.